Your arm just got goosebumps. Maybe not right now, but it will today. For no reason you can point to. A slight chill, a sad song, a stranger's voice too close behind you, and your skin will react like you're still covered in fur that needs to stand up. You're not. Nobody alive today is. But your body hasn't gotten the memo. And it's not the only glitch still running in the background. Think about how strange that actually is for a second. You live in an apartment with central heating. You buy food instead of hunting it, and yet parts of your own body are still bracing for problems that vanished tens of thousands of years ago. Nobody sat down and decided to keep these reflexes running. They just never got shut off, because evolution doesn't ship patches. It only ever adds new code on top of the old, never deleting a single line. Here are 7 habits you never chose, wired in long before anyone wrote a word of language, still firing every single day like the software update never shipped. Start with those goosebumps. Every hair on your arm has a tiny muscle attached to it, called an erector pili, and that muscle still activates on command, exactly the way it did for ancestors, covered in real fur. Fluffed up fur traps, warm air for insulation. Fluffed up fur also makes an animal look bigger to a predator. 2 survival functions. 1 reflex. You lost the fur, somewhere in the long, slow trade of body hair for sweat glands and better heat control. The reflex stayed behind. It still activates for cold rooms, for sad movies, for a stranger's voice too close behind you, because the wiring never got the update that the fur is gone. Your arm is trying to intimidate a threat, or trap warmth that isn't there to trap, using a mechanism built for a coat you haven't worn in a very long time. 1 down. 6 to go. Second habit. Yawning is contagious, and it's not really about oxygen. That explanation gets repeated constantly, and researchers studying yawning have found it mostly falls apart under testing, since raising or lowering oxygen levels in a room barely changes how often people yawn. What actually predicts a contagious yawn is social closeness. You're far more likely to catch a yawn from a close friend or family member than from a total stranger sitting the same distance away. One leading theory ties this to group vigilance, an old synchronizing signal that helped a group's alertness rise and fall together. Useful for a species that slept in groups and needed everyone waking and resting on roughly the same clock. So basically, every time you catch a yawn from someone you love, some tiny ancient part of your brain is quietly checking whether it's time for the whole tribe to rest. Third, you are faster at spotting a snake or a spider in a pile of clutter than you are at spotting almost anything else in that same pile. Psychologists call this the snake detection hypothesis, and lab tests back it up surprisingly well. People consistently pick out a snake shape hidden among other objects faster than they pick out a flower or a mushroom, even when the snake image is small, low contrast, and off to the side of the screen. Some researchers even argue this specific threat detection speed may have shaped how primate vision evolved in the first place, prioritizing exactly this kind of pattern. Your visual system isn't treating all shapes equally, even though it feels like it is. It's running a threat priority filter installed by ancestors who didn't get a second chance to learn that particular lesson the slow way. Ever wonder why a spider in the corner of your eye makes you flinch before you've even consciously identified it as a spider? That's the filter working exactly as intended, faster than the rest of your thinking can keep up with it. Fourth habit, and you've probably felt this one today already, the pull towards salt, fat, and sugar. Why does a single bite of something salty and fried feel like it's hijacking your whole brain? For most of human history, all 3 of those tastes were scarce, calorie-dense, and absolutely worth craving hard, because starvation was a real and constant risk, not an abstract idea. Your brain's reward circuitry still treats a bag of chips like a rare and valuable discovery worth remembering and seeking out again. The problem isn't your willpower, whatever the diet ads keep implying. The problem is, the reward system was carefully calibrated for a world of scarcity, and it never once got recalibrated for a world where that exact reward sits within arm's reach, in every vending machine, on every corner of every street. You're not weak for wanting the fries. You're running ancient scarcity software in a world that solved scarcity and forgot to tell your brain. Fifth, motion sickness. Why would evolution build a reflex that makes you throw up on a boat or in the back seat of a car, of all places? One leading theory says, it's not really about motion at all, it's about mismatch. When your inner ear says you're moving but your eyes, fixed on a book or a phone, say you're staying still, your brain has historically interpreted that specific kind of sensory conflict as a sign of possible poisoning, because certain neurotoxins produce exactly that same disoriented mismatch between balance and vision. So it triggers the exact same response poison would trigger. Vomit first, ask questions later. It's a 5-alarm fire drill for a threat that, on the back seat of a minivan, was never actually there to begin with. Your body would rather embarrass you in front of everyone than risk being wrong about the poison, even once. Sixth, hiccups. Almost nobody can fully explain why the human body still does this. And one of the more compelling theories reaches back much further than you'd expect, back to amphibian ancestors that breathed partly through gills and partly through primitive lungs, needing a fast reflex to snap the airway shut against water at exactly the wrong moment. A hiccup, in this theory, is the ghost of that old airway closing reflex, an ancient breathing mode switch, still occasionally misfiring in a body that hasn't had gills in an extraordinarily long time, triggered now by nothing more dangerous than eating too fast. It's not a malfunction, exactly. It's a very old safety system, still on duty, guarding an exit that closed a few 100 million years ago. And seventh, the one that's probably happening in your group chat right now: gossip. Evolutionary psychologists studying social bonding, including work building on Dunbar's research into group size, argue that gossip evolved as a stand-in for physical grooming. Grooming, hands running through fur, was how primates, in smaller troops, maintained one-on-one social bonds and trust. But human groups eventually grew far too large for everyone to physically groom everyone else in the tribe. Talking about other people instead, who did what, who's trustworthy, who broke an unwritten rule, became a way to maintain a much bigger social network at once, tracking reputations across dozens of relationships no single grooming session could ever cover. Every time you catch up on the group chat drama, you're doing primate grooming with words instead of hands. Same ancient function, same bonding payoff, just swapped out fur for a phone screen and fingers for typing. 7 habits. 7 reflexes installed by problems that mostly don't exist anymore. None of them got a delete option. None of them got an update prompt. They just kept running, quietly, in a body carrying code far older than the world it's currently living in. And here's the part worth sitting with. None of these 7 habits are broken. Every single one of them worked exactly as designed for hundreds of thousands of years. For ancestors who needed every one of these shortcuts to survive long enough to have kids who'd inherit them. The habits aren't wrong. The world around them just changed faster than biology could keep up. And biology, historically, does not move fast. It moves across thousands of generations. Your lifetime barely registers as a rounding error to it. So the next time your arm prickles with goosebumps for no reason, or you can't stop yawning next to someone you love, or you spot a spider before you even consciously register seeing it, remember what's actually happening. That's not a glitch in you. That's a message from every version of you that came before. Still checking in. Still running the oldest software humanity ever wrote.